Hello, welcome back to Skin to It, your guide to healthy skin.
I'm Marlo Sutton, fashion stylist and beauty enthusiast.
And I'm Dr. Sandy Skotnicki, your trusted dermatologist.
Today we're diving into an exciting topic.
We're going to break down everything you need to know about tween skincare and share tips to help you care for your skin like a pro.
So grab your notepads and let's get skin to it. So today we're exploring skincare for tweens. What's necessary, what's hype, and how to keep young skin healthy. So Sandy and I, when we were coming up for topics for this season, just saw a lot of people talking about this on social media, different platforms. Thought it was interesting to discuss the do's and don'ts for tweens and how parents can really guide their young kids in skincare and what they should be doing, what they shouldn't be doing. So obviously I turned to Sandy for some really good, solid, practical advice from a dermatologist. And I think, when you look at it, there's over 11.9 million Get Ready With Me videos.
That's crazy.
Featuring tweens using, most of it is like really high-end skincare, really expensive skincare, or really big, long routines. They say that really extensive.
10-step,
8-step beauty care routines that really are not adapted to tweens and not necessary, not adapted. We look at Northwest, Kim Kardashian's daughter, who has millions and millions of followers and is doing these viral skincare routines. She started at 9. I think now she's 11 years old.
Yeah.
But obviously she's so influential on that demographic, that tween demographic. So we want to talk about what is good in what she's doing, but also what could be potentially harmful.
So, I think when we were talking about this topic and I was researching, I think there's two main things I want to get across. And, I hope some young people watch this, but I think this is really more targeted towards the parents. But one sort of interesting anecdote that I have patients that are coming in, well, their moms are bringing them in. They're mostly girls, young girls, tweens. They don't have skin disease. They might have some mild acne, but the parents are bringing them in, mostly the moms. The odd time it's the dad too. And they want me to explain to them what they need to do to their skin and what not to do. So this is definitely, I'm seeing it come over into a clinic setting. So the main things I want people to get away from this is product safety. Like we sort of already touched on that. What is good and what's not good because we not only want to talk about what you shouldn't use, like what ingredients are bad, but also some of the ones that, like, do your teenagers, did they listen to you? They didn't listen to me. So you have to give them some advice, right? You have to say, okay, stay away from this, but we're going to talk about what you actually can use, not just being negative.
Yeah, we want to give really practical advice.
But a lot of stuff I read is like, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. Well, and then keep your routine simple, but you have to actually give some more directed advice than that.
Yeah.
And then the second thing is just this whole concept of there's so much emphasis now on an 8-year-old with a skincare routine. They're focusing on beauty and their appearance, and could that lead to problems with body image, self-worth? All those things need to be addressed. So I know when we were preparing for this, we looked at some stats, which are quite astounding. The tween skincare market is expected to reach $9.5 billion by 2026. Think about that. Yeah. It's not just for acne, sensitive skin, and the natural thing, which is a knee-jerk response. You think it'd be better for tweens. We're going to break down that and show that it's not necessarily the case. And so a lot of this is coming not just from, bricks and mortar like Sephora, but also on Amazon and other stores like Target in the US. And they're actually targeting and advertising towards tweens.
Sandy, can you explain to us and to the listeners why actually tween skin is more fragile and could be more sensitive, especially compared obviously to adult skin?
Well, one of the things I love about doing these episodes is I do take a deep dive and make sure I'm up to snuff on everything. And,
You always are, Sandy.
But, tween skin is actually quite different. It's not fully developed, partly because when you reach puberty, your oil glands, which produces sebum, really start to kick in. And the sebum on the skin has a very interesting function in that it causes an acidification of the skin. And we know from other episodes, if people have been listening, that when your skin is acidic, which is the normal pH of your skin, 4 to 6, your skin barrier is working properly. So for tweens, because they haven't hit puberty yet, they're not producing as much sebum. Their skin's going to be a little thinner. It's not, the barrier function isn't going to be working as well. The higher pH, it's more alkaline skin, faster skin turnover, and their skin immune system is developed, but they're more sensitive to react to an ingredient and become allergic to it because of all the things I just said. Weaker skin barrier, thinner skin.
So I like that last point that you just mentioned about the developing immune system. And you said it can be, so because their immune system is still developing, they can be at higher risk of an allergic sensitization or reaction. Have you seen more children and tweens with allergies to skincare ingredients?
Yeah. So, when I was training, like back in 97, I was trying to remember when preparing for this episode, we certainly didn't see children. We weren't patch testing children or allergy testing children. We did see some teens, mostly people in sports, like they might be reacting to their equipment or something, but we weren't seeing kids. And I just want to digress just for the listener. Patch testing is the gold standard to determine if someone's allergic to something that touches you.
Right.
It's not prick testing, which is like for peanuts and ragweed. So to patch test, you have to put stuff on the back. You have to put chemicals like parabens, dyes, formaldehydes. It's hard to do in kids. There's not a lot of room. And plus, they don't understand. They've got all this stuff taped on their back. So I do test kids in my St. Michael's Clinic in Toronto here. We do teens. And as far as statistics, I reviewed this. Allergic contact dermatitis in children is increasing. It's actually similar in incidence now to adults. Personal care products seem to be the main trigger, also nickel and piercings. And the common culprits are fragrances, natural extracts, lavender, tea tree oil, and then various preservatives, which we're going to sort of touch on. Okay. And there's this whole kind of trend that natural is better for tweens. And, I think in several episodes, and I think this pendulum is swinging, that natural is not necessarily better.
Not necessarily better.
And
you have to really watch.
Well, because they're full of fragrances and essential oils, which are the most common culprit for allergens and irritation.
Okay. Yeah. And then any interesting cases you've seen in your office?
Yeah, we were talking. I got to write a book on this, I think.
Definitely.
All the crazy cases I've seen with people allergic to things. So I think you know this story, but I had a young hockey player, probably 14, 15, really great hockey player, AAA, and then Canada, that means like high level.
Right.
And he was so hard to patch just because he was always playing hockey. And he was covered in dermatitis from head to toe. I had to put him on prednisone, actually.
Wow.
And he was so allergic to fragrance at the 48. So with patch testing, you put it on 48 hours later, you take it off, you do a reading, and then you do a delayed reading at 96. And he was so allergic to fragrance, he had blistering reaction at 48 and severe blistering reaction at 96. And you know what his mom was doing to his hockey equipment?
No.
Any guesses?
Well, I mean, I only know because you told me.
That's right. I did.
You told me.
Febreze.
But I would never have guessed that.
Yeah. So Febreze is not meant to be on your skin.
Right.
So and I spraying it in the air, maybe on a couch even, but his mom made him so allergic. She felt so bad. So he had to get full new equipment.
Yeah.
The point here is that he has lifelong allergy to fragrance and severe allergy.
Really?
So, I mean, he's never going to be able to use any products that are fragrance, probably. His partner, if they use fragrance, it might bother him. If it's high concentration in the air, he might. So it's not a life-threatening allergy, but it's permanent. And it came from, in this case, I don't know, do you call Febreze personal care? Not really. I don't know what it is.
Well, no.
It should be. It's not one of my favorite household items. I do not use it.
No, neither do I. So let's get into it because, we're here really to give people practical information and really understand. So since the tween skin is developing, it's different. We talked about the sebum. What are the ingredients that tweens should really be avoiding in their skincare products, if they're using any? And let's go through a list.
Yeah, so let's start with I think category of ingredients. And I practice on this podcast what I preach in my office. Like when people come in and say, what's the best ingredient for this? Or I talk about categories. Okay. So we're going to talk about categories that are not the best for tweens. So the first category is all this anti-aging stuff like retinol, which is also known as vitamin A derivatives, lactic acid, alpha hydroxy acid. Sal acids are not bad, especially if they're acne prone. But if an 8-year-old doesn't have any acne, they don't need salicylic acid.
Right.
So
all
of
this
this stuff.
whole idea, I guess, of are tweens thinking that this is preventative? I mean, that's it's amazing how it's just all marketing.
It is marketing. Well, I mean, it is those ingredients are marketed as anti-aging. We'll kind of get into a little bit more of how that might have a permanent response, but let's move on to fragrances and perfumes, which we already sort of touched on.
Yeah, with the Febreze, right?
Well, but also in personal care products. So the most common allergy that we see in kids and tweens from like patch testing allergy in a clinic setting is to fragrances and perfumes.
Right.
Whether they're synthetic or natural, it doesn't matter. And that the next corollary of ingredient groups is essential oils and flower extracts.
Right.
Some of the products we're going to review have all these flower extracts. So, I mean, poison ivy is a plant.
Right.
Okay, we say this all the time. It's natural. There's a very big difference between something being natural and something giving you a rash. So you could say the plants or the natural stuff is non-toxic to the environment. Even that, I would argue. I mean, lavender. Remember we talked about lavender having hormone disruptive ingredients. So lavender essential oil is a mix of 50 different ingredients. Some of those individual ingredients have hormone estrogen recepting powers. So you can't. They're very different concepts. Anyway, they're just a non-starter for tweens. No essential oils or natural extracts.
Okay. I mean, listen, as soon as you say hormone disruption, I think for any parent that would be a glaring red light or whatever, a sounding alarm. Obviously, as parents, we just want to be really aware of what products are in these, what ingredients are in these products.
We want to be aware, but there's still so much misinformation. I mean, I bet you if we had, the pendulum is swinging, but if you asked 50 young moms, is lavender okay for your baby? I mean, it's in so many baby products.
Right.
They think, oh yeah, it's natural, it's great. So that's partly why we're doing this podcast.
Cut through the noise.
Cut through the noise. So the next group is sulfates. I think sulfates get a bit of a bad rap. Okay. Like for someone with your hair, for listeners, Marlo has this beautiful kind of curly hair. And,
Thanks, Sandy.
You're welcome. But it's sort of like people think sulfates are bad, right? They get a bad rap. There's a saying in toxicology, the poison is in the dose.
Right.
So sodium lauryl sulfate actually is not allergenic. It's a great detergent, but you have to use it in really small dosing. So it's actually used in a lot of dermocosmetic type product lines, like Bioderma is considered a dermocosmetic. So lines that are more focused towards people with skin problems because it's not allergenic. And if you use it in really low dose, so it gets a bit of a bad rap. I think concentration here is the most important.
Okay.
And then we go on to formaldehydes, formaldehyde-releasing preservatives.
Okay.
Do you know that concept, like as a preservative, formaldehyde in skincare?
Yeah, I've heard for sure.
Yeah, so they're kind of being phased out because, let's face it, formaldehyde is considered a carcinogen. So, but nobody's putting straight up formaldehyde in a product. Okay. So they're called formaldehyde-releasing preservatives, and it's hard even for the listeners, even for regular physicians, even some dermatologists. They don't know what is a formaldehyde-releasing preservative. The most common one is called quaternium-15.
Okay.
The bottom line is these are kind of being phased out. So, and any kind of clean, I put that with a bit of a cringe because sometimes
she's using air quotes.
Yeah, some clean things are great. Lines, I should say, but many of them aren't because they have essential oils and fragrances. But they won't use formaldehyde-releasing preservatives.
Okay.
And then this concept of slugging. Skin slugging.
Of course.
Yeah, so that's, mineral oil, petroleum-based, Vaseline.
Vaseline, yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's problematic for a young person who isn't acne prone. I mean, it could potentially be a problem if somebody has acne. But the whole concept is that it's supposed to give you some sort of glow.
Right. So
Vaseline is what we call in cosmetic chemistry talk an occlusive. It means it just sits on the top of your skin. Okay. There's no absorption going on. Right. So you wake up in the morning, you wipe it off, and it's you maybe have an hour of looking a little bit glowy. Okay. But a great analogy I heard from a talk once was if you have a dry cake. So think of your skin's the cake. It's dry. Okay. And you put Vaseline on the cake.
Yeah.
Does it help your cake? Your cake's still dry. So these occlusives are just the slugging thing. I don't get. It just doesn't really do anything. You're just going to mess up your hair and your sheets.
Okay, fair enough. So we're not slugging.
Certainly not slugging, and tweens don't need to slug.
Okay.
Phthalates. These are plastic kind of derivatives they've been linked to hormone disruptive. Again, kind of being phased out, not used a lot. Then we have sunscreen, the controversy of, benzophenone, oxybenzone being hormone disruptive. So one of the things, and I'm going to refer all of the listeners, please listen to the sunscreen episode because we talk about this in so much detail and I can't really give it a one-liner, but the European Union, which is so much ahead on regulations for skincare, they have decreased the amount of benzophenone, oxybenzone sunscreen. There's a chemical filter in face creams.
Okay.
Because there was some concern about hormone disruption. Sorry, on face. And then on the body, it's a little higher. So there is some concern. It's easy enough to avoid. You can, most sunscreen brands, I know Bioderma doesn't use anything with benzophenone. So, and the mineral sunscreens obviously aren't going to have these kinds of chemicals in them.
Okay.
And then I kind of want to end off with parabens. So what's your take on parabens, having listened to me over the years?
Over the years. Well, I mean, I think it really, the dose makes the poison is really, everything I've been reading and even different guests we've had and people we're talking to, I'm starting to understand a lot better about, what these ingredients, like there's a lot of fear mongering out there, right? And you really need to listen to experts and chemists and doctors to understand.
Oh, yeah. Now, that's really happening nowadays, isn't it?
Yeah. So, give us the be all and end all about parabens.
We have to do a full episode on this, actually, I think. Although the paraben discussion is kind of really over. I'll tell you why, because no matter what I'm going to say in the next minute or two, in the court of public opinion, parabens are out.
Right.
And so they're just being phased out because consumers don't want them, even though they're a great preservative. I'll just give you the Coles notes. The American Contact Dermatitis Society, which I'm a member of, the European Union Scientific Commission, they've all done, studies and published sort of summaries to say that, and actually I want to digress for a second, parabens, it's an S.
Okay.
There's many of them. There's over 12, I think. Most of them have been banned because they do bind estrogen. But the few that are still available, which are methyl and ethyl, they are very restricted in the percentage that can be used in a product. It's for methyl and ethyl, the EU Commission is 0.04% when used individually and then up to 0.8% when used in combination. So it's not like they're putting tons in there. And they've done ample studies to show the reason methyl and ethyl and propyl and butyl paraben, those are the four that are kind of used. You'll see them on products still. The combination is, the concentration used is so low. But again, no matter what I say, people don't want them. So I think unfortunately now it's used as a bit of a marketing ploy, like it'll say paraben free on a bottle.
Right. So you are going to assume that it's totally filled with good natural ingredients.
Exactly.
With good ingredients.
So let's just review. Retinol, glycolic acids, fragrances, essential oils, formaldehyde releasing preservatives, phthalates, benzophenone, parabens maybe. So those are the kind of things, and I think it's important that parents educate themselves.
Okay.
So that's what we want to avoid in tween skincare.
Okay, let's get back to social media and marketing and all the influences.
Which is why we have this topic in the first place.
Well, for sure. Like how we got here and how we decided to talk about this. And, when you start to go down that rabbit hole and see what's out there, it's really crazy. There's this whole Sephora Kids idea, this whole theme, Sephora Kids. So it's kids buying things online at Sephora, taking their parents into Sephora to buy them these products that they're seeing on TikTok.
$100 cream.
$100 creams. Yeah. I mean, I'm not using a $100 cream. And it's just really been blown out of proportion. They're seeing, young influencers using it. They think it's good. They need it.
Right.
They think that this is going to, like you said, make them more beautiful, make them more...
Well, some of it too is status, I think. You got to have the right pair of jeans. We were talking about that, like when we were in high school, it was like Jordache jeans or something stupid like that. Like you go to school and you don't have the right bag or the jeans or the running shoes, and now they go to the sleepover and they're not bringing out their drunk elephant moisturizer. I mean, some of it is status and some of it is
But it's
skincare routine.
For sure. And it's also, but it's scary to think that an 8 or 9-year-old is sitting there worried about anti-aging.
Yeah, I think that's actually probably not I think it's just sort of fun and self-care for them. So let's sort of get into a routine here. Let's look at Northwest's. Is that the name? It's not West North, it's Northwest.
Northwest, Kim
West
Kardashian's daughter, and her, she shares her skincare routine on TikTok and has so many followers, and most of them are young, between, her age.
She's 11.
She's 11 now. So her age or younger. And so her routine, so she does the Drunk Elephant Lala Retro Whipped Moisturizer with ceramides.
Yep, ceramides.
SKKN by Kim Cleanser. So that's her mom's skincare line. That's
handy.
The cleanser
handy that she's using.
This is just like one of her routines that she was talking about. Vitamasks Electrolyte Watermelon Face Sheet Mask. So that's, she's saying, a hydrating sheet mask infused with watermelon extract. And the Moon Kendall Jenner Mint Whitening Toothpaste. So that's her Aunt Kendall Jenner's toothpaste.
I wonder if she gets any kickbacks from that. She should write that in her contract.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Okay, so I think let's break this down. I think this is an interesting thing to sort of break down. But the first thing I want to make sure is I don't want to be a total negative on all this, because I remember my kid, I have 3 sons, they're 25, 24, and 20, and they actually listen to me much more now. But when they were that age, they didn't really listen very much. So you have to, I think one of the things I wanted to get across from this, and when the moms bring in the kids into my clinic, if you just say no and be dismissive, they're going to go get something which might be worse. So don't be dismissive. Start a discussion. I've got a funny story here. When my kids started to get acne, I bring home cleansers, and I realized I was passing by one of their bathrooms one night, and they didn't know what the hell to do with it.
Right.
They were like, do I do it in my hand first? Do I use a fake? Like, I actually had to teach them. So I don't know that these girls need to be taught, but they need guidance.
Sure.
Like, just like you're teaching them how to brush their teeth, you're teaching them what skincare is good and bad for them.
Yeah.
So be part of the story, be part of it. Go with them to Sephora. So let's look at some of the products she's using. Okay, so the Drunk Elephant thing has 35 ingredients. It's $85.
Right.
Okay. It's actually not bad, other than it has 35 ingredients. I just, I think less is more. 10 is really all you need for a functioning cream.
Yeah.
The nice thing about Drunk Elephant, they don't use perfume or fragrance, and they don't use essential oils.
Right.
And I don't think they have any formaldehyde releasing preservatives. So, but a lot of, like, Bioderma doesn't use any of that stuff, and it's a great brand as well. Like, so do you need to spend $85? I think that's more so. That one's I can sort of get behind. And ceramides are a good moisturizer. Although, somebody of that age shouldn't have dry, irritated skin unless they have a skin disease. So you don't need hyped up ceramides.
Okay.
The cleanser, I think it's so funny that it's her mother's, or not funny. So this one is $43 US. I don't know what that would be in Canadian, a lot nowadays. 44 ingredients, no perfume, but tons of flower extracts. So that's, again, you're going into things that are potentially irritating, the kids can become allergic to. And it has turmeric root extract, which is a potential allergen and an irritant. And 44 ingredients, just not necessary for a cleanser for a 9-year-old. The watermelon mask. I actually think that these sheet masks are fun for kids. This is where self-care. They have a sleepover. They can have a bamboo one, which is sustainable. Have a conversation with your daughter about sustainability and skincare. Get one. The packaging is, the mask is sustainable. The packaging is, and no perfume. So this one is 38 ingredients. Why do you need so many ingredients in a sheet mask? And it's perfumed. Right. So the watermelon is just a marketing thing. Watermelon doesn't do much, except it might smell nice. So it can be fun, but you don't want the perfume. One other point I wanted to make here is it's not just about these young influencers. It's about actual tween celebrities. Like, we'll talk about, did you ever watch Stranger Things?
Yeah, of course.
I love that. I watched it with my boys. My youngest son, Spencer, really was the reason he went into film school, I think.
Oh,
he
really?
just loved it. And all those kids were tweens when they started.
Sure.
So Millie Brown, has her own, and I checked, she started it when she was 15. It launched in 2019. She was 15.
Right.
So it's kind of tweenish, not quite.
No.
So, but that's the target audience, right? So I just picked one thing. I picked a cleanser. chock-a-block full of essential oils, lemon, lime, lavender, orange. And if you had any of that on your skin and you were out in the sun, it could actually increase your risk of sunburn.
Right.
So definitely, and this is something that's targeted to tween skincare. And it's lauded as natural, non-toxic for sensitive skin. It's not at all.
Right.
So you can't actually go by the marketing. That's the other point I wanted to make.
Okay, so I read that the British Association of Dermatologists warned in 2023 that anti-aging ingredients on young skin can cause permanent skin issues. So, I really want to understand how is that true? Well, obviously, I mean, it's coming from the British Association of Dermatologists, but let's talk about this warning.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, what they're saying and what they're doing about it, like how they're combating this, I guess.
I actually, even when I read this, I was like, permanent? I mean, what's permanent? The permanency is if they get allergic. But there's three things. So skin sensitization, again, what does that mean in medical terms? That's if you touch poison ivy 10 times, on the 11th time, your body will go, oh, I don't really like this, become sensitized. So once you're sensitized, your body now sees this as bad, as foreign or whatever, and it attacks it. That's allergy. Yeah. So once you become sensitized, you're then allergic to it for the rest of your life. Right. So that's permanent. And so we are seeing young kids mostly becoming permanently allergic to fragrances, some preservatives, some essential oils, nickel and piercings, which I talked about. Right. So that's where the permanent thing is. But then let's talk a little bit about, just to review, tween skin is thinner, the barrier function. So let's actually talk about that, a barrier. Think of your skin as a brick wall, right? The bricks are the skin cells. The mortar is the sort of natural oils. So that brick wall isn't working as well. Okay. And part of that is because the skin is more alkaline, and that's got to do with the sebum production, which we already reviewed. Yep. So if you've got a thinner skin, your barrier's not working well, and then you start putting all the stuff that's exfoliating you, like the acids and the retinols. I mean, and if you're thinking they're helping with aging, it's actually going to accelerate your aging because you're going to thin out your skin more. You're going to go out into the sun, or you're going to pollution, and you're going to actually damage your skin more. So,
your skin
listeners,
becomes more susceptible.
Yes, you're actually more susceptible to the aging things that are out there because you're over exfoliating. Right. So those are the permanent kind of things.
So I was also reading, and this is also something that really struck me, just even other regulations that are starting to take place in all over the world, right? Yeah. So in Sweden, there's a brand of pharmacies. They have 390 in Sweden, and they banned retinol and AHA, so that's vitamin A, right? Right. Retinol sales to kids under 15.
I think that's great.
Yeah. Which says a lot.
Sweden's a real outlier. They do a lot of things, like especially with COVID. They do their own thing, man. Like no one else is banned. They've all talked about it. But no one's actually banned it except Sweden.
Yeah. And in the UK, Boots, which a lot of people may know, pharmacy is training its staff to educate parents on skincare safety for tweens and younger kids. Yep. So, I mean, that's fascinating.
Yeah, shout out to shoppers. Yeah, maybe you can follow suit.
Yeah, for sure.
Or Sephora.
Yeah.
Have some tween education people roaming the store.
Right. So if you have kids who are moms and tweens are coming in asking for certain products, if you have a knowledgeable associate and you can see the kid's age, you can guide them to other products and explain to them why this is going to be better for them, right?
I have a funny anecdote here. I actually forgot I did that years ago when Sephora first became popular. I went in sort of undercover and asked some questions. The people that I asked had no idea what they were talking about. Right. They're just selling stuff.
Sure.
Like, they would take me to something for acne, and then I actually would ask some sort of in-depth questions, and I think that could be improved. Maybe it has been improved on. I don't know.
Yeah. And then the biggest one, I mean, listen, this bill didn't end up getting passed, but they attempted to pass a bill banning vitamin A, and its derivatives, so retinols, glycolic acid, and vitamin C for kids under 13. So the whole state wanted to ban.
That was California. Was that California?
That's California. Ban the sale of any of these ingredients in personal care products to kids under 13. I mean, to me, that says so much that if this is starting to happen, eventually, I think these products will be.
I don't know.
It's hard to regulate.
It never passed. I mean, despite passing in the Environmental Safety and Toxic Material Committee, it didn't pass, I guess, in whatever the state legislation is. But and I also think it's interesting, the Personal Care Product Council, which is sort of a council in the U.S. for industry, they argued against it because they didn't want to over-regulate skincare. I mean, if anything, it needs more regulation.
Definitely. So, and in Canada, what's happening in Canada?
Yeah, Canada, we have this great thing that I'm actually part of. The Canadian Dermatology Association has a skin health program logo. So we will put a logo on a product if the company comes to us and we review their ingredients and it doesn't have all the allergens, like fragrances, formaldehyde release improvers, all the stuff that is sort of reviewed. If the logo is on the product, that means it's suitable for people who have irritable skin, sensitive skin, they have eczema, they have psoriasis, things like that, and tween skin. The only exception here is retinol and glycolic acids and stuff. That's not part of our we don't ban that to put the logo on.
Right.
But it's at least something. I also have a website, it's called Pare, P-A-R-E, which is sort of a play on pare down, like your skincare. So I'm going to do a tween section of things that I would recommend for tween skincare. And I'm going to put some fun stuff on there, like sheet masks and, maybe formaldehyde-free nail polish and stuff like that. So that would be a great resource. I think we need more of those resources because you can't, just going back to that tween kind of skincare line by that actress, that's marketing. It's not necessarily targeted for tweens with the right ingredients.
Right. Okay, so let's just wrap up this episode and give people basic, effective tween skincare routine.
Well, I mean,
what are they using?
Yeah, you can go on TikTok and see a whole bunch of dermatologists, but they have like a couple thousand followers, and the influencer has millions, and they're telling them the wrong information. Okay, so it's about routine. I mean, young kids, they do want a routine, and it's basic, but then so there's 5 parts. So gentle cleanser. Yeah. And I kind of hate that term gentle, because what does that mean? Basically, for cleansers and moisturizers, just get fragrance-free. Yeah. And natural, extract-free, no essential oils. So no fragrance of any kind, whether it's natural or non-toxic. Your moisturizer can have things like, these young kids, they know names like hyaluronic acid, glycerin, vitamin B5, ceramides. Those are all great. Get a moisturizer for that. You want to pay $80 for one? Go for it. You could probably get the same thing with Bioderma for, $12. Okay. Then you have sunscreen, and there was a lot of concern about using chemical filters. So get a mineral one with zinc and titanium. Maybe if they're at camp and it's like, for those times when they're going to be really in the sun, have a chemical filter that doesn't have benzophenone in it. Again, Bioderma has one that's great. And then if they have acne, that's the 4th thing. So they can use some benzoyl peroxide, some salicylic acid, maybe low-dose glycolic acid. And then we have the 5th, which is self-care fun. So they have a sleepover. You do a sheet mask. You do a clay mask. Right. You have nail polish. You maybe have seed oils, like an oil moisturizer. Okay. And hyaluronic acid and things like that. But target the products to have no fragrance, no essential oils. And, if you want to spend $100, go for it. But that's pretty much it.
So we're going to educate our children. We're going to help them get a good, healthy routine that's tailored to their age group.
And you're not going to be dismissive. You're going to be part of the conversation. You're going to make it fun. Yeah. And take it as a learning. And like with moms that I come in, sometimes the kids and the moms are so at each other. And I say, like, let's make it fun. Like, sure. Okay, here are the list of things, and go and have fun and get stuff together and even do it together.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I love that. Okay.
So thank you so much for tuning into Skin to It podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and join us next time for some skincare insights.
Thank you so much. Please let us know what you thought of today's episode.
If you have any questions or thoughts, send me a message on social at Dr. Sandy Skotnicki. And don't forget, all the links and resources we mentioned are in the show notes.
And if you haven't already, please subscribe and leave us a review. It helps us to bring you the content you love.
Until next time, take care, and we'll see you next week on Skin to It.